Hey, good Tuesday morning to all of you. Welcome back to Southwest Flavor. I'm Ron Arenas, your host, and today we have Heather Lappin, who's running for Pima County Sheriff. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. Where do I start? I always joke that I'm very similar to Chunk on the Goonies. Do you remember when she says, "Tell me what you know," and he says, "Well, when I was 8, I did this." And I'm an overshare. So I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
That's where I was born, Hillsdale, Michigan. There's a very conservative college there, if anybody's familiar with that.
Yep. I used to get their newsletters every month.
Yes.
Yep.
I did not go to that college, but I'm from there. That's where I'm from. Both of my cousins went to Hillsdale College, and I was born there. I've also lived in the Upper Peninsula for a long time. I still have a lot of family up there. My sister's up there. My nephews are up there. And that was, I lived a lot of places, but Escanaba was the place I lived for a majority of my time up there. Still beautiful. I got to bring 2 of my children up there 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It was in the summer, of course, and it was beautiful as always. So,
and the Upper Peninsula is way different than anything else, right?
Oh yeah. It's the wilderness. The thing to do in high school was or even junior high. When you went and did something,
right.
You went to people's fathers' camps. So everybody has a camp.
Okay.
And I'm going to camp.
Do they have a cabin there too?
Okay. So it'll be a cabin that they go deer hunting.
Nice.
But everybody we're going to camp. We're going to camp. Like that's how they say it. It's just a different world,
right.
So I moved to Phoenix in 1994 and I did that. Don't hate me, but I went to go to ASU.
Okay.
That is where I graduated from.
And what'd you major in?
Political science.
Okay.
Yep. I moved to Phoenix. I worked, I ran IHOPs for about 10 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And that's what I did.
Were you like a regional manager or?
Yes, to all the above. So one of the things I did that I really liked was I got to travel around with IHOP Corporation.
Oh, were you opening new stores?
Yes.
Okay.
It was, and I was so young,
Yeah.
I was in my early 20s, and I got to travel around and open up and train people.
Nice.
How to run IHOPs, and obviously I was the server trainer, but that was a really fun time for me. But for the other parts, I was the training manager. I was the general manager. I was the regional training manager.
Wow.
So I've done a lot of things with one franchise.
Yeah.
And it taught me a lot. It was a really good experience. I always say in law enforcement, we should really be recruiting from those customer service jobs because that's how you learn how to talk to people, that your IPC skills, that's how you learn to take criticism. Just
learning to work with people.
Absolutely.
In total. And fry cooks are different people.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for acknowledging
Yes,
that.
they
That
are.
was, that's really part of your history in a restaurant business is watching people fight across the pass bar, and then I need this, and
not showing up.
You didn't put it in, or no cooks show up in the morning, so you're running around trying to cook the eggs and serve the eggs.
Yep,
and
exactly.
It was a good experience, but it's also donde aprendí cómo hablar español, and I always joke that many of my cooks, when I was managing, they would say, "Oh, no hablo inglés," I don't speak English, until their checks were wrong.
Oh. Then they found the words.
And then they would come in
then
and
they
they
knew
were
all the words.
perfect. They could speak English perfectly. You shorted me hours.
They did that Sammy Sosa thing.
It was pretty funny. But so I did that. And then my husband got transferred down to Tucson. He sold Harleys.
Oh, okay.
And that's what he still does. And so we moved to Oro Valley, and that's where we've been our whole life, and that's where I raised my kids. So when I moved to Tucson, I had a 2-year-old at the time, and initially I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and that lasted a good 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And I think back on it now, I laugh, I tell it as more of a joke, but I think back on it now. But I think the problem was I was in a new city and I didn't have.
You really didn't know anyone.
I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a support system. I didn't have anything. And so it's not like I had anything to do but hang out with the 2-year-old. I couldn't go to coffee. I couldn't go to,
right.
I just didn't have that support system. So,
did the kids go to CDO or Ironwood Ridge?
Ironwood.
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
We're Ironwood.
All my kids went to CDO.
CDO,
Yep.
okay. So both my boys grew up playing CDO Little League. So, their whole lives, they grew up playing with the players that went to CDO. And then we ended up, because of the, boundaries,
the borders,
we were in Ironwood. So they, I had a 2-year-old, and then I got a job as a booker in the jail. We call them support specialists. But I worked the cash window. So I did the cash window on midnights at the jail, and I took, if people wanted to put money on books or people wanted to bond people out, I was at that window to do that on the midnight shift. And I
don't even think most people know that position exists.
Yeah. It was it was just an eye-opening experience for me, because back when I was there, I was in the intake unit. So my window was where all the action was happening. And so, I was hired pregnant, and I was 4 months pregnant when I was hired to do this job. And that's why I've always had loyalty to the Pima County Sheriff's Department, because I told them ahead of time, hey, I just want you to know I'm
this
pregnant.
Is going to happen.
I'm not trying to hide anything from you. So I was pregnant with my second son, working midnights at the cash window, and I got to see the action. We'll just call it that. And so the booking window, where all the bookers sit to book people in, you see through that glass, and you see all the deputies and the officers coming in to book their people. And I think this goes in society in general. You have this belief in who can become a cop, right? Who can work in law enforcement, and you just assume it's not you. And so I would watch this one particular deputy come in, and I've told him the story a million times, so he knows who he is. But he came in, and he would come in over and over and over in one shift. Like, he was a busy deputy.
Really? Bringing people in?
Bringing people in. And I mean, he was bringing big people in, and, young people in, and fit people in. And, and I would watch him, and I was like, if that guy could do this, I could do this. And so I went and had my son, Adam. I had my second son, and I came back pretty quickly, honestly. Back then, you didn't get your, like you do today, you didn't get your 6 weeks of maternity leave paid. So I was gone for, I think, maybe 6 or 7 weeks, and came right back. And I think it was the first week I came back, there was an advertisement on a counter for deputy. And I picked it up, and I was like, okay, I don't know. So I did it. I applied, and I kept it very quiet. I didn't tell anybody, because I just, I'm going to get flushed out somewhere, right? I'm not going to be able to do this. I just had a baby. So I started, working out, getting ready to do that PT test for it. And I think.
Who was the sheriff at the time?
Sheriff Dubnik.
Okay.
Yes. Sheriff Dubnik was the sheriff. So this was, 2004 is when this happened. Or no, it might have been, in the beginning of 2005. Yeah, so I probably applied the beginning of 2005.
Okay.
And then I did my PT test, and I passed with flying colors, and went through the process, did the oral board. I remember thinking, I'll get flushed out at the oral board. No, I made it through the oral board. And then this is kind of a funny story. So then once you get the conditional job offer, I don't remember if it's before or after, but you have to go see a doctor and get cleared to do this. And mind you, I have like a 3-month-old baby, or maybe even younger. And I went to the doctor, and this doctor happened to be a retired DPS officer. And she was, she was very stern. We'll just put it like that.
Right.
So she's looking at me.
She doesn't have that bedside manner.
No. And she's, doing the evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks at me and she says, you have to run. And I want to say she had an accent, but I can't remember. But she said, I have to run. And she's yelling at me, you have to do this, all this physical fitness stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And she goes, well, what are you doing? What are you doing to prepare? And I said, well, I have 2 babies at this point. So I have a 2-year-old and then I have the baby. And I'm like, well, I bought a double jogger. I've been running. I do sit-ups. I do push-ups. I'm telling her all the stuff I do. And she looks at me and she goes, well, it doesn't look like it.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that. I was like, well, I am. I just had a baby, so it's taken a minute to lose this weight. And so...
Do you think she was trying to discourage you? Or
Yeah. Only, not because... I don't think there was any ulterior motives. I think she was probably trying to
maybe
save
watch out
me
for you a
from
little
flushing
bit?
Out of the academy.
Okay.
Like, hey, you're going to have to do all this stuff. And, apparently I didn't look like I was doing it, right? And
at least according to her.
According to her.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably did it. And I gained, all 3 kids, I gained a lot of weight. So I
did
I.
I
was I was probably a little chunky, if we're being honest. Yeah, but that was a funny story that she was like, girl, you better get your butt moving, right? And so I had, so then I got accepted and I started October 5th of 2005. That's when I started the academy. So, Adam's a March baby, so I started with a 6-month-old and a almost 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Very nice.
That was, I don't like to do things easy. I want to make sure I make it as hard as humanly possible when I do it.
And get all those challenges out of the way.
Yeah. So, and then my husband, he's in sales. So if anybody knows sales, it's not like you're, there's no paid time off. There's, if you're not working, you're not earning.
That's right. That's right.
So I always like to say I was a, what do they call it? A single married mom, to raising the kids.
Yeah.
Because, he had to work a lot of hours. So
he probably had to work on weekends.
He did, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So lots long days for him. And then, but luckily I found, I'm going to give her a shout out, but I found a woman named Sue.
Uh-huh.
And how I found her, I don't even know. But I went to her and interviewed her. She had references. She had actual police officer references. So she had been watching some TPD officers' kids also. And so I'm like, okay.
You interviewed her like as a nanny
to
or
babysit?
To babysit?
To babysit because, I couldn't be in the academy without that.
Right.
So, so I found her and I really, really credit her for where I am today because had I not found her, she was so wonderful throughout everything. And if you're okay, I'll tell a quick funny story. But she would just if I was getting out of the academy late, I would call her and she was fine. And if I had to go early, she would let the kids come early. And just she was so flexible with me to. Because she was all I had. I didn't have family. I didn't have family here, and so it was me and the kids,
Right.
And
she knew what you were doing.
She did.
You weren't out partying or anything.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that makes a big difference.
It did, and she was so helpful. And I just ran into her and her daughter Kathleen at Starbucks the other day, and I was introducing her to because I call it my Starbucks because it's the one I go to. So I was introducing her to the barista, to who I know well, and I was like, "She's the reason I'm a police officer," because of what she did for me. She made it so I could do this, so I could do what I wanted to do. So, yeah. So. Graduated the academy January of 2006. And interestingly enough, 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant with my third.
Uh-huh.
So awkward.
So they're all really closely together.
Awkward timing. Yeah. I know. But that's the funny story. So, so we're in advanced basic, and And I lost a ton of weight in the academy. So, because I'm a nervous Nelly, right? So if I'm nervous about anything, and everything in the academy to me was new.
Yeah.
The defensive driving was new. I'd never been in a fight before other than with my sisters, right? So I have to go in and fight these grown men, So it's just, I did it, that's what courage is, right? You do it even though you're scared.
That's right.
So
did you play sports or anything in high school?
Yeah.
So, okay.
I was a runner. So I did cross country and track and what else? And gymnastics, sorry.
Okay.
So gymnastics. So then, and then when I went to my first year of college was at Albion College in Michigan before I went to ASU. But and I walked onto the diving team there because they didn't have a gymnastics team. So so I've dove and I've ran, but I was a big distance runner. That was my thing.
Yeah.
So I could endurance. I could take it. Take it. But it was just it's a whole new world for some people. And every day it was almost like the one day at a time for me during the academy. I'm like, just get through tomorrow. Just get through tomorrow. And
and you see your goal keep getting closer and closer and closer.
In the first time, so do you know what padded assailant is?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so padded assailant is when you go into a matted room and they are dressed up. These men are dressed up in padding, they have helmets and everything, and the goal is to show that you can defend yourself, basically. So it's a fight. It's a fight, right? And like I said, I'd never been in a fight before, other than with I pulled my sister's hair maybe a couple times. So I'm getting ready to go in, and I had told myself, I'm not doing that. There's no way I'm going. There's no way, not happening. So I show up anyway, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to get in my car, and I'm going to leave. And then I don't. And then they get pulled into, and I am so nervous. I am so nervous. And I go in the room, and in my memory, he picked me up and did the helicopter like Jimmy Superfly Snuka, remember? And I came out of the room, and my ponytail had fallen out. I'm carrying a shoe, and I have this big shiner, right? A big shiner. And so you have to run everywhere you go in the academy, no matter what. Carrying stuff, not carrying stuff, you have to run. So I came out of the fight, if you will, the padded assailant drill, and I go running into the cafeteria, and I run up to my table, and obviously you see how I look. And obviously the shine, my black eye hasn't formed yet, but you can tell it's, not okay.
It's all puffy and yeah.
And I'm grinning ear to ear. And
because you did it.
They looked at me and they said, "Did you do good?" And I looked at him and I said, "Oh no, I got my butt kicked, but I did it." That was just that overcoming that mental, that mental barrier that you place in your mind. And this was really helpful later on because I was able to kind of share that experience with the recruits when they would be coming through, when they would be nervous, when they would be, or not nervous. I'm like, I don't know if it's healthy for you not to be nervous. I think you should be a little nervous. But so it was, that was a mental barrier I had to pass. And then I ended up later becoming a defensive tactics instructor.
Okay.
And that in itself is hell. I'll just tell you right now. That's 2 weeks of just getting beat up all week long, like all day, every day. But anyway, so I think, where was I going back to? So I graduate the academy. I find out I'm pregnant. And, that was what I was going to tell you. So 2 weeks into advanced basic, I get food poisoning.
Ooh.
And everybody's like, "Oh, it's because you're pregnant." I'm like, "No, I had food poisoning."
Yeah.
And, but I come from, I'm a boomer kid. So my grandma raised me for the most part, right? So there's no...
You just keep going.
You go to work.
That's right.
I did it at IHOP. I did it, you just go to work. So, and my husband happened to have been out of town. Okay. So he goes out of town for business, for whatever. So I start, the thing in the middle of the night, and the next day I got to go to work. So, I'm laying down, taking a shower. Like it's nonstop. So I get the kids in in their car seats. We drive over to the babysitter's, to Sue's house,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally have a garbage can in my lap, right?
Oh, no.
Well, she sees me. She looks out the window and sees me. She sees what I'm doing, right? And so I give her the kids, and she, she's looking at me like I've lost my mind. And I'm like, I got to go to work, I got to go to work. So I go to work. I make it through the day. Somehow I make it through the day. I come home, and I pick the kids up, and she has bathed them. She's put them in pajamas, and she's made them dinner.
Oh, wow.
And she hands me the dinner, and, we come home, and I sit them in high chairs, and I go to change my clothes. And my younger one, he was 3, like over 3.5 or something. So I would sit him on a little stool. Well, of course, Murphy's Law is what it is. He falls off the stool and just slices his chin open.
No.
He needs stitches.
Yeah.
It's obvious he needs stitches. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I give him, I can barely walk. I'm so sick. And I give him this towel, and he's holding it, and he's screaming, and I got to get the baby, and I put the baby in the car seat, and we get in the car, and I go to turn the ignition, and the battery's dead.
Oh, no.
You can't make this up. The neighbor comes over, the neighbor jumps me, and I think, well, I can't go to the hospital. I've got to go get a battery before I go to the hospital, or else the battery's just going to be dead after we get out of the hospital. So I go to, AutoZone or whatever. I walk in. I have a bleeding 3-year-old in one hand, a car seat in the other hand. I'm barely functional because I've been so sick. Buy the battery, and the kid looks at me, and he, hands it to me, and I'm like, "Well, you're going to put it in, right?" And he said, "Oh, we don't do that anymore after dark." Like, it was dark. And I burst into tears, and I'm like, I got to go to the emergency room. And he's like, okay, lady, okay. Well, go put your battery in. So they go and put my battery in, and I go to the hospital. They glued it. They ended up gluing his chin. And I'm laying in the chair in the emergency, or, in the room, and I've got the baby on my chest, and I have no energy. Well, the nurse doesn't know what I've been through.
Right.
So she gets mad at me because I'm not encouraging my 3-year-old enough. I'm like, okay, yay, right, good job. So finally I get home, and we're able to go to bed. But it was just, that was like one of the worst. You just can't make that up of
right.
what happened. So yeah.
All right. We'll be right back after these messages.
Sorry, story time.
My heat and air were in a state of disrepair. My drains were clogged. I was really in despair. So I called some guy. You've never seen such a mess. And every time he leaned over, well, you can probably guess. Now I get it done right by Picture Rocks Cooling. They're neat and clean, peachy keen. Really no fooling. Got a problem? Just call up and help is coming. Picture Rocks Cooling.
Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in Southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltalon.com. Again, that's selltalon.com.
Discover the power of 88 Crime, where your anonymous tips are rewarded with cash.
When you call in anonymously with the tip, you are given a code. With the code and a password, you can walk into a bank and redeem your reward anonymously. If your anonymous tip results in a felony arrest, you can claim up to $2,500 cash reward.
Let's stop the silence on crime and strive for a safer community. For more information, please visit 88crime.org or call 88crime.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
All right, welcome back to Southwest Flavor. I remind everyone out there to go ahead and download your Live the Dream Media app on your Google Store or Apple Store. It's free. There's all kinds of content on Live the Dream Media, so make sure you download that. It's free, like I said. Also, I want to thank Raul. He's back doing the board. He's producing this show. He's in the meat locker, so thank you, Raul, for making us look good and sound good.
Got you, brother.
All right, and now we're back with Heather Lappin.
Yeah, thank you.
So what brought you to ASU from the Midwest?
So like I said, I went to 1 year at Albion College, and then my cousin ended up getting our first teaching job at Peoria High School in Phoenix. And it's kind of wild back then. And I just said, I'm gonna leave, because I ran cross country at Albion, I dove at Albion, and then I just I don't know, it just wasn't my thing. So I said, let's go on an adventure. So I went with my cousin. I came out and I worked for 6 months, which is where I got the job at IHOP.
Oh, okay.
And I nannied for her also. So while she taught, I watched her son and got my Arizona, citizenship. So my tuition was cheaper at ASU. So I did that. So
you're a resident for a year.
Yeah. So I did that, and then I was able to pay in-state tuition when I went to ASU.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you think of your first summer in Phoenix coming from Michigan?
Well, it was hot.
But it was dry.
We moved out in July or August. We moved in the summer.
Okay.
So, but what was hard for me was, I was still a runner. And so I started running, and I'm like, what in the heck is this?
You'd have to be running at 4 a.m.
I would call my high school cross country coach. I'm like, I can't run anymore. Something's wrong. I just go, I don't know what this is. And he's like, it's 120 degrees. That's what's wrong. Yeah, you're not used to it. And I eventually got used to it to where I used to run. I'd run at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the summer. But there was a point in my life where I just... I think I got enough heat injuries, and now I can't even go out in the heat without getting a heat injury. So, I pushed some limits with that one for a long time. Yeah.
We started riding El Tour de Tucson 2 years ago.
Yes.
And when we started training, beginning of July 2 years ago, we'd start riding at 7 p.m. at night, and it'd be 109 degrees outside, and we'd get back about 9:30 at night, and we thought it was really cool. And then we looked, and it was still 104 degrees. But that sun wasn't beating down on you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It is a different heat at night. For many years, I trained running at nighttime.
Yeah.
I would go up to Rancho Vistoso, park at Safeway, and run because there's lighting up there. But it was, I don't know. And then I was also in a running group called the Grinders, and we would meet at 4 a.m. at in Marana behind the school there.
Okay. That's when we do a lot of our riding is during the summer, usually between 4 and 5 a.m. is when we start. We're done by 7.
Yes. And it feels good to be done. That's when I go to the gym still. So I do the 5 a.m. class at my CrossFit Onward. Got to give her a shout out, which is in Marana. The 5 a.m. class is where it's at, definitely for the summer.
It is. Yeah. And you get it done with, and then you go on with your day. But you feel good after that. You really do.
Gives you that adrenaline or the dopamine hit to move, to keep going. But I like doing the morning workouts. But for many, many years, I would run at night. I was always a night runner. And it was... you try to avoid those heat injuries, but during the academy, so I worked at the academy for a lot of my career, and so we would do, you did runs in the middle of the day with, in
high school our track season was like March, April, May, I think. Yeah, so there was a lot of days when we were running and it was 100 degrees, and you run, probably get out of school at 3 o'clock and you run from 3 to 5. Yeah, in the heat of the day.
I see them running because they, run at Iron Run. I see them running. I'm like, no way. I mean, I guess when you're young, it's easier because I think back to my cross country days, and no, this is not an exaggeration. You can look it up, but it was my senior year state or regional meet, and we had to drive up, and we drove up in a blizzard. It was a blizzard, and so
what month was that?
So cross country for Michigan is a fall sport, so it would have been end of fall, beginning of,
Oh, wow.
that. And it was a literal blizzard. And we, you have the gear, you have the tights and the thermal tights. And back then you didn't have all the, advancements that you have today.
Yeah, you didn't have all the cool stuff that they have now.
That Nike makes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we did that meet in a full blizzard to where, when we were running, there was ice that had formed over puddles in the grass, because in cross country in Michigan you run a lot on the golf courses, so that's where that during the winters, so that's where we would do our competitions, and the ice had formed over some puddles along the course, and when you stepped on the puddle you would go through. So you have soaking wet feet.
That's no fun. When your feet get cold and wet, then that's the end of the day.
It's for us, it was 3.1 miles, and then it was just but we were smart enough to bring change of clothes and stuff like that. But I know we did a lot of running in those harsh conditions for sure. But
I've never run in a blizzard.
No, no. It's an experience, I'll tell you. It's definitely an experience.
So getting back to your history, so you've been with the Sheriff's Department for a little bit over 19 years?
Yeah, so 20 total. I'm sorry, in December I hit 20 with the department, and I passed 19 as a commissioned deputy.
Okay.
So that was because I started off as a booker.
Right.
So
I've been in the jail once. I did a ride along with the TPD officer, and we some undercovers picked up a lady selling Coke. To them.
When was that?
Oh, this was mid-90s.
I was going to say
94.
If it was cocaine, it had to be.
yeah. Like 93, 94, 95, somewhere in there. And so, they didn't have transport, so we went and transported her and took her to the jail.
And so you were at the old jail, which was much more confined. We now have a bigger pre-booking area. It's a whole different, a whole different.
Well, thankfully, I haven't been in there since
lucky
then.
for you.
Yeah.
Lucky for you. Yeah. So we, it's much since those days, it's much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so 19 years as a deputy, like I told you about the academy, and then I went and had the baby because I told you I was pregnant. So I was, they put me on light duty while pregnant because I didn't want to go on FTO. So field training, I could have gone on field training pregnant, but I chose not to.
Sure.
So I just spent my whole pregnancy on light duty, and what they had just implemented, we called it car jail. That's when they've passed that law that when you had a suspended license, your car would be impounded.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was with a retired guy. I was running that unit up on the third floor. And it was a really, what I thought was a terrible, not terrible, but, bad timing for me ended up being a blessing because I got to meet a lot of people I wouldn't have otherwise gotten to meet, commanders, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so then after I had my daughter, we, again, another pretty short maternity leave, and I came right back and went on field training.
Right.
So, they put me through some stuff at the academy for, I think, a week, and then I ended up going back on field training, and it was, that's how my career started. So I went to patrol after that, and it's funny because the sheriff likes to say I have 7 months on patrol, which is hilarious because so I went on FTO in 2006, and then I didn't leave patrol until 2011.
Oh.
But what happened was I kept getting brought in for specialty assignments, but they were patrol specialty assignments. Okay. So it's interesting when you do your job fairly well, they want you to do other things.
Sure.
So that's what happened. So I was on patrol. I worked midnights, and then I worked swings. We had such a great squad. I remember it was the Foothills swing shift squad. Okay. We had great sergeant. Bob Krieger was our sergeant, and we had a wonderful, wonderful shift. And then I went to a unit called SRT, which was a special response team.
Okay.
And that was there were 6 of us plus the sergeant, and we were able to go anywhere in the county. And it was mainly on-site activity, so we were looking for things, or we were also able to do a little bit of surveillance work.
Okay. Were you being a little bit more proactive?
Yes,
then?
yes. And we would go help districts when they were getting inundated with calls, or they had a big call that needed people. So that was what we did, and that was around 2008.
Okay.
Because the recession hit.
Yes.
So when the recession hit, our unit was one of the first to go.
Oh.
So I think in 2009 is when they put me in. I got transferred to Rincon because they eliminated the unit, and I got put on directed patrol. So directed patrol, I speak a lot about directed patrol. So every district at the time would have a unit that would be able to focus on quality of life issues.
Oh, okay.
So in Rincon particularly, one of the big cases I worked on personally was car theft or break-ins.
Okay.
So there had been a group of people in the Rincon district just breaking it, and they weren't breaking windows. They were finding open vehicles.
Yeah, they go through the neighborhood and just check every door.
Yes,
Yep.
And so it was a really great case. We were able to. They would go and pawn. It was when TomToms were big. Remember the GPS system? So they would steal those. They would go pawn them at pawn shops. So we were able to go to the pawn shops and find out, where we were finding people that didn't even report the case because of their pawned TomToms.
Because their information was on there.
Right. And so, we served a warrant. Actually, some of the kids, or I call kids, but young adults is what it was. But we served a warrant right here in Marana for the and when we ended up arresting them for all these break-ins. So it was a really fun time doing that. But we also were a support system for patrol. So
nice.
We would back people up. So it was very patrol oriented as well. But that's where they get she only has 7 months or whatever. And then in 2011, I went to the academy. So I got a job as the counselor in the academy, and I have worked pretty much all the jobs in the academy minus the class officer. And I'm not going to be a good class officer. They're the yeller, right? They're the one.
They're kind of the drill sergeant.
The drill sergeant. Yeah. There you go. So I worked as a counselor, and then I worked as the field training officer coordinator. So I did that for a while, and then I came back. And now, granted, it wasn't just one straight through thing. So I promoted out of the FTO coordinator to sergeant, went back to patrol, worked foothills, swings, and until I was called back to the academy. So then they called me back to the academy as the supervisor. So I was the class supervisor, and again, I'm just not a good yeller. I sound like I'm a dying cat when I'm yelling, and so I just did that disappointed mom thing, and they say it was effective, so I'll take it. But yeah, so then and then when I left, I went from the supervisor at the academy to internal affairs. So I worked internal affairs for a while, and then I promoted to lieutenant out of internal affairs. I went back to patrol. I went to San Javier. I worked. I was the patrol commander for San Javier. Then, when this administration came in 2021, I was transferred to Green Valley. So I was a Green Valley patrol commander. And then from there, I was selected out of the entire state to represent Arizona Post. So Arizona Post is our governing board for Arizona law enforcement. And I was selected by them to represent them on their leadership team. So I was able to travel around Arizona and do leadership classes on the Basic Leadership Academy with Arizona Post leadership team. So I met a lot of great people.
Yeah.
I worked with a former chief at Phoenix and a former commander at Scottsdale, and they were amazing mentors to me, and they still are. I still speak to them regularly.
It's amazing all the people that come into your life for all of us. I mean, some of them for reasons that we don't even know, but the people that come into your life over the years just shape you
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And it's also interesting how, when I got that job, I thought, oh, this is my calling. And I'm supposed to go do this.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to go teach. I'm supposed to go be a speaker. And then here we are. I'm running for sheriff.
Right.
And all those tools I learned there were effective in giving speeches and giving campaign, and I'm like,
Yep.
okay.
It's all game set up.
It's all, this is what's happening. So, it was a great experience. So I did that for about a year. The contract ended there, and then I came back and they put me in the training center again. So I went back to training, and I was the training section commander, which means I have the academy, but I also have the range. Then I'm also in charge of all advanced officer training and all the training that happens in the agency. And so we did that until what happened after there? Oh, then that's when the sheriff decided to start his wellness section. And I was chosen by him to lead his wellness section, which I was a big believer in, was the wellness aspect. I have a great resiliency story on that. And so I had shared that with a majority of the department. And so that's why I was chosen to run the wellness section. And then, and then I decided I was going to run for sheriff. So then I was transferred to the jail. I was the East Section commander. And then I was moved when they did a shuffle. I wasn't punished. There was a shuffle for everyone, and I got put in intake. Oh, okay. So I was the intake section commander. So I went in November of 2023, and then I think I did the East Section, and then I did the intake in June is when we did that shuffle. So great experience again, right. Even though they were mad at me when they put me in the jail. It's been the biggest blessing ever to have gotten to work there. For many reasons, getting to see what the corrections officers do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And
that's a tough job.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And
it really is.
You can become a corrections officer earlier than you can become a deputy. So you can become a corrections officer at 18, where you have to be 21 to become a deputy. Right. And you watch these 18 and 19 and 20-year-old young adults, and they're running pods of like 64 people by themselves.
Yeah. All right. We will be back in just a couple minutes.
Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in Southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltalon.com. Again, that's selltalon.com.
Discover the power of 88 Crime, where your anonymous tips are rewarded with cash.
When you call in anonymously with the tip, you are given a code. With the code and a password, you can walk into a bank and redeem your reward anonymously. If your anonymous tip results in a felony arrest, you can claim up to $2,500 cash reward.
Let's stop the silence on crime and strive for a safer community. For more information, please visit 88crime.org or call 88crime.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
Calling all families. The Marana Pumpkin Patch is your ticket to fall fun for everyone. From toddlers to grandparents. We've got it all. Jumping pillows, a diesel train, a super slide, and more. Kids will love our farm animals, while adults will love our famous corn maze. And don't forget our 70-acre pumpkin patch from Post Farms. Marana Pumpkin Patch, where families make unforgettable fall memories. Tickets available now at maranapumpkinpatch.com.
All right, welcome back to Southwest Flavor. We're talking with Heather Lappin. She is running for Pima County Sheriff. The election's in 2 weeks. This is a big one. So tell us a little bit about this election and what's coming up.
Well, we have been grinding, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I go to everything I can go to, anywhere I can get my name mentioned, talked about, whatever. And definitely since the primary, I've really put a lot of focus on getting that bipartisan support.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important for people to understand that I'm more than my letter, first of all, and that I am a firm believer that this office should not be a partisan office.
Yeah.
I play by the rules, right? I play by the rules I'm given, and then I've also been asked, why didn't you switch, or why didn't you go independent, or why didn't you, and I just, one of my core values in life is authenticity. And so I believe that switching a party that I've been registered as my whole entire, adult life would have been super inauthentic. Sure. I have to deal with, the repercussions of what people think about the party itself. Yeah. And so once I meet people and I tell them my values and I tell them how I feel about the community, I'm usually able to sway them over. But it's, I can't talk to all million residents. So there's got to be a way to get your voice heard in other ways. But that's been a really, really important thing for me to do. So I went to, I've gotten to go to Pasquayaki. They had the Get Out the Vote Day. I got to go meet the tribal council. I just went to Fresh Start on Saturday. Dr. Damon Holt does that Fresh Start. And so that is, I
haven't heard of that.
Oh my gosh. It's such an amazing program. So what he has done is he uses the TCC and these judges, these law clerks, anybody associated with the court system is basically Tucson City Court, Justice Court, everybody, the lawyers, they're volunteering their time. And they come in on a Saturday and basically they're getting warrants quashed. They're getting fines reduced. They're getting, and it's, we talk about reducing the population in the jail. Yeah. This is how you do that. Right. This is how you do it. It's not not arresting people. It can be, but what I'm saying is this
for the
is
smaller
such
things.
a huge program, because what happens is, everything compounds. You get a ticket for a suspended license. Okay, my license gets suspended because I didn't pay a parking ticket. So then you get this ticket. Well, then what happens? Well, then your fines start compounding. Then they take your car. That's even more money. When you're working a minimum wage job, you just can't catch up. You just can't do it. And I recently read a book called The Many Lives of Mama Love. Somebody out of the blue, out of my kids' sports career, texted me, and she's like, "Heather, you gotta read this." So I read it, and it is a phenomenal book about what we do to people that get released from mainly prison on this one, and how they, they're just set up to fail. Yeah. And it's like, you have to be here, but you also have to be here, and you also have to be here, but you also have to work a full-time job. You have to pay these fines, and if you don't do all of those things, you're going to get, put back in prison. And so, just giving people a chance to succeed, giving people a chance to become productive members of society is important to me. Yeah. So the Fresh Start initiative is amazing to me. I think it's such a great program. That is how we reduce incarceration rates, in my opinion. So he has one coming up in Phoenix next week. So I'm excited for him for that. His goal is to reach all major cities in the United States. So I think I wish him well. And
that's a great idea.
It really is. And it helps people, like I said, take care of their legal...
Their minor offenses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they get to see judges. They get to see law clerks. They get to, the whole thing. So anyway.
So what are you hearing on the street from people that you're meeting? Like the main concerns?
Well, safety. Public safety, and that should be our primary mission for the Pima County Sheriff's Department is public safety, and so we have to allocate our resources appropriately.
Okay.
My opinion is that, and my platform is that we aren't doing that as effectively as we could be right now.
Sure.
And so my goal is to, when elected, is to allocate those resources back to patrol. Right now, our patrol's been cut by over a third since this administration's come in. The resources are there; they're just putting them in fleshy specialty units.
Okay.
I want to repurpose our mission of law enforcement. It is public safety. Mm-hmm. We have to be trained. We have to be well versed in, the constitutional rights of the citizens. We have to be well versed in, all of the legal and law related matters. But we also have to be problem solvers.
Yeah.
And so, how do we do that? How do we go out and what I like to call not community policing, but create relationship policing?
Sure.
I think our deputies on the streets, they need to be creating relationships with our residents, with our business owners, so that we can be doing this together. So Robert Peel said, people are the police are the people. We should be part of our communities.
Sure.
In addition, I want to create the safest environment in the jail that is possible.
Oh, okay.
I believe staffing is an issue, and that was the issue.
Yeah,
it's
been an issue for a long time.
Yes, and the large amount of jail deaths that happened in our jail, that is a direct result of staffing. That was a result of decisions made by this administration in 2021 that created our staffing crisis that we have never seen before in the history. So obviously, nationally, we have a recruiting and we have a retention problem in law enforcement, but nothing compared to what happened in 2021 and 2022. And you look at the death rates, but we've since implemented a lot of great things into the jail, and like I said, the corrections officers are doing a phenomenal job in ensuring those things happen. And before I was placed on administrative leave, I was able to watch a lot of those amazing things.
Yeah.
And part of my job is to watch the videos of them doing their thing, and I was sending out 3 to 4 attaboys a day.
Oh, good.
Because you're looking at a third, and this is Heather Lappin's estimate, right?
Yeah.
These aren't data. This isn't official data, but
these officers in the jail they're stretched, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. They do such a great job. And you look at like medical emergencies, right? So you look at medical emergencies, or the code will go over the radio, and you just step out your door. Just step out your door and record it. I mean, everybody is running.
Okay.
They're grabbing the med cart. They're grabbing the AED. They're grabbing, they all know their CPR. They all know, the nurses, NAF care is running to go, handle the situation. And it's just amazing to watch what these young, a lot of times.
Sure.
Now, granted, we have, some people that are, my age old, but you just look at these young people and their dedication to what they're doing. So, and then, I have to talk about how great our dispatch, our communications center is. These men and women are also doing a very, very stressful job, and well. They're doing it very well. And so I appreciate all the, in addition, we could not do it without the support of our administrative staff. And so I'm very thankful we have such great people that work for the Pima County Sheriff's Department. However, my platform is to allocate resources differently, to recreate opportunity for our officers and our deputies and our administrative staff, have a career development program for them.
Oh, okay. So you can lay out a path for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
That's important. Yeah,
it is.
It is.
It is. And because when you get in a rut, your hope is gone. You know? Do I have advancement opportunities?
Right.
What if I don't want to promote? What else do I have to do other than
Sure.
this? And so I think, and I'm huge on education, right? So, interestingly enough, I didn't graduate ASU right away. It took me 28 years to get that bachelor's degree.
Okay.
And then immediately I went to NAU and I did the whole master's. So I'm big on education only because I know how it changed my perspective on things. And society is really demanding that. If you look at, west of the Mississippi, we have a different culture than east. I'll just put it like that. But you look at chief positions in the International Association of Chiefs of Police, they require education. They require command college experience. They require, why is that? That is because the education is helping us to understand our communities better.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm really big on talking about is just being a listening ear.
Okay.
For decades, law enforcement has come in and said, this is what you need. This is what you need. And society at some points and times have said, but this is what we want. And we said, no, we know better. This is what you need.
Yeah.
And so I believe in procedural justice hugely. I believe in community procedural justice and internal procedural justice. And by saying that, I think it's important that we give people a voice. Everybody a voice.
Definitely.
Do you feel disenfranchised by your law enforcement agency? Do you feel trusting with your law enforcement agency? And if you don't, I'm not just going to shut you away.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to put you in a corner. I'm going to listen to you, because that's what we don't do enough of, is listen.
Right.
And so that is why I've been so huge on going and talking to, communities that have historically been disenfranchised by, or felt disenfranchised, or the perception is there,
Right.
By law enforcement. Let's open those lines of communication up with them so that we can, so that they can feel safe. Everybody deserves to feel safe, not just certain communities, not just certain political parties, not just, I believe it's for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
and a safer community is better for everyone.
100%.
No matter what your economical status is, or your race, or your religion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I firmly and truly believe that it's so important. And talking to people, I went and met with a group of women. And I'll be honest, I thought it was just going to be a couple people, and it ended up being about 30 women.
Okay.
And I'm not going to lie, it was an ambush. But they kept saying, well, what are you going to do about this? And what are you going to do about this? And I said, listen, I'm not the savior. You have to tell me. And then we work together to create a system that works for both of us.
Sure.
I have to follow the law. I have to uphold your constitutional rights as a citizen. And I have to maintain a safe a jail. But how can we reimagine what that looks like? How can we be more part of the solution to problems? We will never, ever incarcerate or arrest our way out of any of the problems we have. And so how do we change our mission to be those protectors of society, but also be part of the solution? Working with programs like Fresh Start, working with programs like Gap Ministries or Gospel Rescue Mission, or La Frontera. The mental health community is huge. I am very, very, very vocal about this, so I'm not breaking any news here, but having a son that has struggled with addiction.
Okay.
I have, during our years of suffering through this, we did a lot of things. I had him arrested. I locked him. I changed the locks. He was homeless. I put him in 4 different programs, very, very expensive programs. And doing all that that's accountability, right? That was accountability. But here's what I never stopped doing, was loving him during the whole thing. And I never stopped being there when he was ready.
Yeah.
And I think that translates to our community. We have to have accountability. People have to toe the line. We can't just allow people to live lawless lives because they have a hard situation, okay? Yeah. However, we also have to be part of the solution to giving them the opportunity to succeed if they so choose. And that's kind of my motto as well.
Well, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're about running out of time.
Yeah, I figured we were close.
Thank you so much for coming on. So how do people...
Heather for Sheriff. HeatherForSheriff.com. It's Heather, the number 4, Sheriff.com. Reach out and let me know what needs or questions you might have.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on.
And vote.
Yep. You need to vote. Election is 2 weeks away. Go out and cast your vote. We'll see you next week on Southwest Flavor.